Hey everybody, it's Dwayne here, and today we're going to be jumping on my painting table to do some speed painting for some Dungeons & Dragons Dark Elves that I'm going to be using in a session in about 3 hours. Okay viewers, thanks for tuning in. I'm doing a live stream of some speed painting. I have to get this done before 4 o'clock today. I have a D&D session at 4, and I have a little encounter planned with my players last session having ran into some Dark Elves. Little do you know they're Dark Elf assassins, but whatever. And I need to get these beauties painted up. So if you're wondering why the rush, I run 3 D&D campaigns a week. I am a professional, I don't want to say professional, I am a full-time dungeon master. This is what I do for a living. And part of my commitment to that job is ensuring that I create enough immersion for my players as possible. And this includes creating sets, terrain, and painted miniatures. And I've been a little lax for the longest time on painting the miniatures. I have a backlog and I just buy them as I need them. And I just kind of assume that players don't really need to see them painted. However, when they are painted, it is amazing, the experience, the immersion. And we are playing online these days. So I need every little advantage I can get when it comes to providing a sense of, being there at the table. If you're wondering how I use miniatures online, it's very simple. I do not use Roll20. We conduct our voice chat over Discord or Zoom, and I stream my tabletop, which means I actually put a camera on my tabletop, much like I'm doing now, sort of like a mini Industrial Light and Magic type situation with miniatures, terrain, trees, and all that stuff. And the players can see that, and then I simply ask them where they'd like to go, where they'd like to move. The players don't need to physically pick up their own figures to do that. So that's sort of how I do it. So without further ado, let's get into the painting side of it. I've got a reference piece right here, which you can't see, but this guy right here is a Dark Elf I painted up a while ago. So that's just there to give me some inspiration. I'm going to start by giving, these have all been primed. So these are WizKids miniatures, deep cuts. They're about $6, $5 to $6 each. They're very small compared to other miniatures that I'm used to painting. So the good news about that is that I can slather them with some paint and not worry too much about whether they look good or not. And they don't really need to hold up under close scrutiny. I've primed these. They come pre-primed from the package, but the primer they put on at the factory is not the best. So in a pinch it works, but I've base coated these with Wraithbone from Games Workshop. So first thing first, I'm running low on paints, so I didn't realize that, but I'm going to give these guys some contrast black on their clothing. I know that's kind of a cheap out, because everybody's thinking, well, the black is just the easiest color in the world to paint. But I think in this case, I want to give them a sinister look. So I'm going to give them black capes. Not all of them have capes. I see 2 don't. There's a mix of male and female figures in here. That's a male, that's a female, and that's a female. These are the 2 males. So the cape ones, I'm going to do those first. Nice thing about doing multiple miniatures is that, some are drying I can do. I'm not going to use my detail brush. I'm going to go in with a little bit thicker of a brush. And, and give these capes a wash. You got to be careful, though, because when you start using black, you kind of get into this thing of wanting to keep going and going and going with more and more and more black. And next thing you know, your figure's just all black. So you got to make sure that if you're using black, you got to offset those colors elsewhere. By adding some different shades and tones and stuff like that. I just finished painting the Punisher model for Marvel Crisis Protocol, and he's like an all black figure, so I had to work really hard at figuring out where I was going to add in some extra little touches to offset all the black. Okay, so here we go. I'm using an off-screen magnifier glass because I'm old. I'm going to try and remember to keep this in view for you guys. So I'm just using contrast paints. I didn't always use contrast paints. A lot of people think contrast is like a cop-out for real skilled painters. I think it's just another tool in my arsenal. So I'm going to try and contrast paints are not just an easy paint to use either. A lot of people think, oh, it's contrast paints, you're just, it's easy. No, it's not. There's techniques for contrast paint, and you don't always get the optimal results. I think my next thing that I'm aiming for is actually getting into airbrushing. That's been something I wanted to do for a long time, and I'm just kind of scared of it, the concept of it and all that stuff. But I think for some of the figures that I'm starting to paint, airbrushing might come in handy, especially things like large surface areas like capes and stuff like that. So yeah, that'll be my next journey. We'll see how this goes here. I don't have my watch on right now, so I have to keep an eye on the time. I've given myself about 4 hours to get these done. Really depends on the how detailed I want them. The trick with miniature painting for an audience, when I say audience, not you, but the players, is that you're really kind of like, well, D&D is different. So for example, when you're playing a miniature game like Warhammer or the aforementioned Marvel Crisis Protocol, the miniatures are yours personally. So you're showing up and playing a competitive game I'm going to shake this up. You're playing a competitive game so that you're kind of showing up pride. Like it's like yours. You want to show off your figures and stuff, right? But when you're playing D&D, they're just more commodities. Like they're just tools, right? So you're not putting as much pride in them. But if you do, the danger is that maybe the people who are seeing it aren't appreciating the work you put in. Sad to say, right? So I could spend like hours painting a figure and think it's the most amazing thing on the planet, but at the end of the day, your audience is not you. I guess that's the whole thing about miniature painting. It seems like you're painting for someone else constantly. I could be totally wrong on that, but okay. So now I'm coming up to some detail work. I got to keep checking and make sure that I'm in camera here. So I think I'm going to leave this. That's my problem, is I keep wanting to push forward. I'm going to leave that for a different brush. I like the brush stroke it gives, but I'm going to leave that for a different brush. So there's cape number 1 done. I'll let that black settle. And then I'll come back. Okay, tackle this one here. This should be an interesting encounter. It's a 2-hour session. I don't know if the combat will go for 2 hours. It could. I mean, there's 4 players, and we are playing. And online, I don't know if you play D&D online, but D&D online takes longer than D&D in person. Like, it just does. Like, you're dealing with, and it's not even the gameplay, it's just you're dealing with people who aren't paying attention. You're dealing with people struggling with technical issues, people talking over each other, just a lot of little things that add up to the fact that playing online just seems to take longer. So if you have a lot of patience, totally cool. Like for me, I only do 2-hour sessions, but if I could, hold like a 4-hour session, then it strips away some of the urgency. You're just all okay with it. You're just kind of casually playing D&D, and you can get up, have snacks, joke, laugh, go off on tangents. But when you are running it as a job and it's a 2-hour session, I guess people have expectations on what to get done and hurry because we're ending, and they want to make sure they can get as much done as they possible per session, considering it's going to be like another week before their next session. So it's just kind of a different experience. Playing at the table, even playing at the table in a 2-hour time crunch, is different than when I used to play with my friends and that in school. We would play for hours. We'd go over to so-and-so's house, or mostly my house, and we would grab snacks and head downstairs and laugh, and we didn't really care how far we got in the adventure. It was never about, oh, we got to finish this and we got to get here and let's hurry. It was more about having fun, and even just joking around and having fun, like not necessarily at D&D. Like, sometimes we would just sit around the table talking about our characters, and that was fun. So I'm going to try and bring that back a little bit to these kids and make them realize that, the fun of D&D was really just the social aspect. It wasn't the actual experience points and all that stuff. It was just being able to talk to people and hang out. Okay, same thing here. I'm not going to go all out. I'm going to leave that to my other brush. Big thing with contrast, I said it before in other painting videos, just make sure you're spreading it out. You don't want it to pool. Okay, gotta get under the cape there. Just knowing what brush to use. I should be able to get this with this. At 48, I think I'm doing okay with my hands. They're not super shaky yet. I hope I never get to that point because a lot of my hobby type stuff requires a steady hand. Okay, so there we go. That was the easy part, doing the black capes. I'm gonna let those dry. I'm just gonna pick through these figures, doing the things that I want to do. There's no right or wrong steps with this. I'm just gonna go and, you know, because I'm under a time crunch, I'm gonna just tackle this as I want to. The one common thing is I think they're all gonna have white hair, and that's pretty common with Dark Elves. So let's go ahead and do that. And the skin, yeah, maybe. Let's do the skin. I'm gonna go a different approach with the skin. So Dark Elves in D&D, there's different artwork out there that sort of, you know, typifies the Dark Elf race. I remember seeing an art from Larry Elmore back in the early 80s, a book called The Crystal Shard, and the cover of it had a human barbarian, a dwarf, and it had a Dark Elf named Drizzt, and he's very famous now in literature. But he was a Dark Elf, and Larry Elmore, or at least the colorist on Larry's art, if it was him, maybe it was him too, did a dark brown skin instead of black, and I thought that was cool. I liked that look. It was more natural than just a black skin, but I mean, it is D&D, so you can sort of create your own rules. But I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to put an Agros Dune and see how that looks, and then maybe layer it up a bit to make it darker. But I'd like that dark brown. You can see here I did something similar to that here, versus the black. And pretty much all the artwork of Drizzt after that book has been black. I don't know, I think I liked the dark brown look. I'll go with my detail brush. So I'm going to do that with all of the faces and see where we're at. And dark skin is really hard for me because maybe I just don't have the right color. But I've tried like Snakebite Leather. I've tried other dark skins for characters like Killmonger in Marvel Crisis Protocol. And it's hard to get that right. Either it's too dark or, you know, so I'm going to try the Agros Dune and then layer it up from there. I'm going to try it on one of the miniatures that's not drying. So this is where it gets really tiny. And there's not a lot of exposed skin on this particular model. It's mainly going to be the face. Looks like the arms are clothing. So yeah, it's just going to be the face. So let's get in here. So far, so good. Letting the contrast sort of flow where it flows. Her neck. This assassin cadre is going to be made up of male and females. I don't know if that's breaking any rules when it comes to D&D's Dark Elves. I don't know if females work with elves, but let's just say in my campaign world they do. So the other thing is the ears that are poking up there. You got to get those. And like I said, these are very tiny miniatures. Well, not very tiny, but they're small. So, you know, there's mold lines and stuff like that. But I think at the end of the day, it's more about mass production on these things. So, you know, if you make a minor mistake here and there, I think you're going to be forgiven. She doesn't have gloves, so I'm going to get her hands. Let's see how that looks. She has gauntlets, but not gloves. And I can go back and layer up this Agros Dune to darken it up. So if it's not quite as dark as I want it to be, I can go back and add another layer of it. But for now, there we go. And also giving thought to what I'm going to do for the colors. I'm leaning towards a purple. I don't know, maybe a brown, throw in some green there as well. I've only got as far as the black cloaks for now, so I really don't know where I'm going color-wise. And that's my biggest challenge when painting, believe it or not. It's not my fear of ability, it's just, you know, I'm a graphic designer, and on the computer and such, I can get a good grasp of colors when I'm doing artwork on the computer. But when it comes to my paints, I fumble because I really don't know what to use color-wise. So again, this is Agros Dunes. It's contrast paint from Citadel Paints. This is a little too heavy, as you can see, but I'm going to spread it around. Got to be careful because I am doing the white hair. So any of the paint that I get onto the hair, unfortunately, is going to show through, and I'll have to repaint it if that's the case with white before so it just gets messy. So just try not to get any on the actual hair. There we go. He's got gloves, so he's not, does he? Yeah, but his hands aren't, so he's got gauntlets as well. So I'll get in there with some Agros Dune on the hands. A little too much there, Dwayne. Spread that around. Make sure you're spreading your contrast around. And if you have to, you can even go and you can even like get some of it off your brush by wiping it on your cloth or whatever you're using, and then that way it stops the pooling. Okay. Okay, 2 down. These guys are dried up on that cape, it looks like. Okay, these guys have gauntlets, it looks like, so we're not going to do that. So we'll just get their faces. Same rules apply. We're going to hit that hair up next anyway. The environment for this fight is pretty mellow. It's just going to be a room. But I have some terrain pieces that can jazz it up a little bit. Let's get that face hanging on his belt too. Looks like this particular elf has captured some heads. I don't even think they said they were Dark Elves, but interesting. Okay. One more, so that's faces. Wish I had my watch on so I could see. Okay. These elves are really deadly. I've stat blocked them up already for the encounter, and should be interesting. I have a couple crazy murder type players who just love to go in and slay everything they see, and so far they've been used to just going nuts and not having anything that can really stand up to them. So we'll see how they approach this fight. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I've made the commitment to show arm skin here. She's got some bracers on, but I'll make the commitment to... It's hard to tell on some of these sculpts whether you're dealing with skin or just tight clothing. So I'll just plunge in and just assume that this is her arms showing. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to go back in and touch in the gaps on the dark cloaks. I'm also going to do something here, and I talked about this in my last video. It's kind of a psychological thing that I do. It's not recommended. I think a lot of painters will tell you that you should always do your base last, but for me, painting is kind of psychological, so I tend to what is it? I tend to paint where I want, and if it helps me feel like I'm moving forward and getting ahead, then I'll paint that. So for me, bases have always been that thing where I'm like, I want to paint the base, and people say, no, don't paint the base till the end. For me, it's like, well, the base, when I paint it, it makes me feel like I'm getting ahead of the game and I'm almost done, kind of thing. So I'm going to paint the base. Okay, that's done. I might go back and dry brush that cloak later as well to give it some details. For now, we'll leave the contrast. Contrast black doesn't really do anything, really, because once it dries, it's all black. So it's tricky because he's got hair. Okay. So, I think I'm going to do that cloak sash of his red. I think I'll do it black. So what I will do next is I think I'm going to go with leathers. I think I'm going to go with the Skeleton Horde. It's kind of my go-to playbook when it comes to leathers and that in D&D. It's a light color too, which means I can always paint over it if I want later. It's not gonna, even if I want to add a green over top of the Skeleton Horde, I can. So let's see what that looks like. I'll pick a guinea pig. I think let's see here. Yeah, let's go with the girl. I'll use her as my guinea pig. I did say I was going to go with the base, but I'm still trying to decide what color base I want. These Dark Elves live in the Underdark, but I'm getting kind of tired of the black and brown bases. I do have some green for like supernatural, magical creatures, so I'm thinking maybe an orange would be different for these guys. Yeah, I'll give it a shot and see. All Underdark is brown and drab. There's lava and stuff in the underground. So here's my Skeleton Horde. I'm going to apply this as the armor. Or, can you guys see that? Yeah. So that's going to be sort of the body. And we'll see what that looks like. I'm just going to cover it all. I'm not going to distinguish between different parts of the body. I'm just going to go with a full out. And then once the details come out, I can go back and maybe pick out different colors for it. Go over it with a green or something, but for now I just want to see what a full Skeleton Horde. I'm not going to do the belt. I think I'm going to save that one for a darker color. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave them. This will eventually get made into a YouTube video, so if you have any questions, you can either ask them in the stream, which I'm monitoring, or when this makes it to YouTube, you can just put it in the comment section. Good old Skeleton Horde. Kind of a tan color is what it comes out to. And if you go back over it, obviously it's going to come out more. Now, I haven't decided about that armor. I think I'm going to do those armor patches a darker color. Maybe contrast black, I'm not sure. But there's the bodice. We'll call it the bodice. And now I can see a little bit more details on it. So, moving down, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do black boots, but I'm going to do a militarum green for her pants, and then finish it off with a brown belt. So I can do the boots safely without worrying about that. But I think, and this is just theming it up, guys. So like I'm probably going to duplicate this theme across all the miniatures rather than painting each one unique. They probably all get their armor and clothing from the same place anyway. But I think I'm going to commit to doing the bases, that orange. I think it's Griffin orange or something. Contrast Griffhound orange. The area of the Underdark that they're in is does have, you know, fiery areas and stuff like that, but I don't think there's any real rule on, you know, what kind of Underdark. And I think orange might look kind of cool as a as an actual base, like bottom to the figures, not base as in paint. So I'm going to go back to my thicker brush. Plus my brain is needing to take a break from the tiny details. So what do we got here? Blood Angel's red. I won't go that far. I got the yellow. I won't do that. I think this orange might look pretty good. I've got another orange here as well. Is it the same one? Yeah, I've got two of them. This is the problem when I buy paints. And I don't realize what I have. So I'm going to paint this, and I think this might pop as well, because the board that I'm on is kind of a fiery board, but we'll see. Worst case scenario, I'll let it dry and paint brown over it and call it a day. And by base, I mean I'm going to just do the circle part, not the actual terrain. I haven't actually painted any of my... I haven't actually painted bases orange, ever. but I have been dabbling a lot with fire and lava lately. So thematically, it's kind of cool. Hopefully this view is okay. I apologize in advance if I'm new to these painting tutorials. So I really haven't quite figured out the best camera angles and all that kind of stuff, but feedback is great. If I do more of these, because they're kind of fun. I like talking while I paint. It makes me feel like I'm not alone painting, but yeah. If I do more of these, I'll definitely solicit some feedback. So that looks pretty cool, actually, come to think of it. I kind of like that that orange look for the bases. Let that dry. What color should I do the the actual rock that they're on? I don't want to do too much black. Maybe I'll do like a Agros dune on that as well. So next up, let's tackle some. Well, let's keep working on Lady Assassin over here, and see where that takes us. And then that way, if I get a good solid figure done, I can sort of replicate that fairly quickly. So for her, we talked about doing green pants, Militarum green. So let's do that. And see where we go with that. I think I might do her gloves that color as well, or her armbands, gauntlets, that kind of stuff. Militarum green is my new favorite green, at least for painting Dungeons and Dragons figures. And it's a natural green. It's not brightening. It's not bright. It's not bold. It's not sullen or decay green. It's just kind of a earthy green. Great for cloaks. Great for clothing in the D&D world, that kind of stuff, if you want sort of a naturey kind of look. I just painted Punisher's duffel bag the same color, and it has a good overall look. So use my detail brush here, and we're going to hit her up with some green pants and green armbands. So I'll do the armbands. I'm going to have to wash some of this green off because I can tell right off the bat it's too big or too much. And this is where you start seeing the contrast come in because there's rivets on her gauntlets. I got these paintbrushes on Amazon, and they're really amazing. They're not Citadel paintbrushes, but they're just really good, and they've been holding up good. This one here, I don't know how it happened, but I've got like a little curve hooky thing on it, which is awesome because I can reach areas with it. But yeah, I'm going to have to buy another set. I hope Amazon keeps my purchase history. I think it does. Okay, let's get her other gauntlet here. Okay, so now we have the question about the armor. I think I'm gonna do that in chain because it looks like there's scales and some silver with some null oil will look really cool on that. So I think I'm gonna do that. I like where this Militarum green is happening, so I'm gonna go and do her pants with the Militarum green now. You're only really using like 2 or 3 or maybe a little bit more colors when it comes to painting figures. It depends on the figure, mind you, and I am not a crazy painter, so I won't go and start blending and all that stuff. Like for me, I'm pretty simple, so you know, if one color works, I don't go crazy trying to use alternate colors to shade and all that. Maybe if I had spent a lot of money on it, but you know, for a D&D figure that cost me $7, then it needs to serve a purpose rather than being a showcase of my painting talent. I'm not going to go too crazy. And I think that's where my anxiety comes from, really. When it comes down to painting anxiety, it's always like somebody can paint better than me, so therefore I won't even try. That's sort of my negative attitude towards painting, is if somebody can paint better than me, why should I paint? Because it'll never look as good as theirs. Usually what I'll do is I'll coat null oil at the very end. Null oil is a miracle product. If you heard me talk about null oil in my last painting video. But yeah, I like that. So let's get some white contrast on the hair, and then let's get the black on the boot. Again, cheap D&D figure, but having some fun with it. Not as bad as I thought. I was scared when you see lots of clothing and armor and stuff like that. Okay, dust out the black. Hopefully I have enough black. You know what? Here's a question. Maybe I don't go black. Maybe she's a female warrior. You know, this is so, what do they call it? type casting or typifying or whatever you call it. But I think I'm going to throw some purple in. I was going to do black boots, but you know what? I think I'm going to do some purple. Maybe just to toss it up a bit, you know, just to make it sort of like magical / this is a female assassin. I don't want to say that all females like purple, but yeah, let's give it a shot. This is like a last minute Hail Mary. And again, I can just do black over it if this doesn't work out. But let's just see how this looks. I'm going to do it darker, so I'm going to have to do one layer and then multiple layers. I mean, the black cloak, I talked about it earlier. The black cloak is the black in this figure. I don't want to do the whole figure black. It just looks like I got lazy, right? So let's just see what happens. And also, if I put some Nuln Oil over top of this purple, it won't be so pinkish. This purple is not dark purple. I thought I had a dark purple, to be honest with you. I should go look again. I could have swore that I had a dark purple contrast. But what I'll do, like I said, I can always put black over top of this, but what I'll do is I'll do these boots purple, and then I'll come back over with a Nuln Oil and see what that looks like. I'm currently painting another miniature with this purple for my Marvel miniature game. And it also is coming out really light purple, which for that figure is good because I'm going to layer it up. I think actually for any figure you're doing, layering is good if you want to do multiple layers, right? So this is kind of a really light purple, not the purple that I wanted. I think at one point I had another purple. Oh, I do. It looked like it was black. Okay, well, let's see what that one looks like. Is this it right here? Yeah, contrast purple. I don't know what it's called. Shyish purple. Okay, let's give it a shot. Let's see, this one's going to dry. I think this one's really dark purple, so it might be the effect that I'm looking for rather than layering up. But we'll see. I'm thinking I'm going to put some rocks on that orange base and paint them as well to give that base some texture. Okay, guys. Oh yeah, this is like almost black purple. I didn't put a lot on it, so let's see if it's dry. It's pretty much dry. Okay, stay tuned here. This is going to be crazy. Okay, I think this is like a severe purple. Oh yeah. Yeah, if I recall, this one has a lot of splotchiness to it. I don't know if that's the right word. Okay, but definitely the dark that I wanted. So let's hit up the other leg. Sometimes you get some really neat stuff when you start experimenting with different colors and that, and then you stumble on something and go, that's a good look. Maybe I'll use that look for a different figure or something like that. But in this case, the dark purple is welcome. I wanted something between a black. So this is going to give me that dark that I wanted, but it's not going to be a default black. And I don't think it can just be for the girl. I think I'm going to apply this in other areas on the other figures. Yeah, I like it. Okay, rocking along there. Let's dig out my silver. Glad I found that purple. And let's see what happens with the silver. Now the silver I had to revitalize. This is not a contrast paint. This is Runefang Steel. And this was a dead paint, and by dead paint I mean dried up paint that I had. And I brought it back to life because I didn't want to have to buy a new one. But I'm slowly getting to a point where I'm going to have to make another investment in some more paints. I can write all this off as part of my business, but yeah. So I'll just show you here. Runefang Steel is what I'm using. And I've been using Runefang Steel in some variation forever now as far as weapons. Chainmail. It's a brighter silver. I have lead belcher, which is like a lead kind of thing. It's not as bright. I should probably bust that up. But this Runefang is good if you want your silver elements to be highlighted. And mostly what I'll do is I'll put this on lightly and then go over top of it with Nuln Oil, or even sometimes a black contrast. But for now, I'm going to go lightly over that chain sections with this, and then I'll hit it up with some Nuln Oil after the fact. I can also do the blades too at the same time. So the chain section are right here on her armor. You'll see that there's there. So I'm going to hit those up. And you just do it lightly. You don't want to smother the actual chains themselves. Or the links, sorry, or whatever they are, the scales or the metal part. You don't want to cover that up. You want some of that detail to come through, especially when you're going to hit it up with some null oil afterwards. So she's got another one here, and I accidentally went over that with some black, so this is good that the silver will cover that up. And she's got a part here. So I'll go ahead and hit that up. And I'm going to do the blades while I'm at it. These guys are vicious. They get 3 attacks per round. And I don't think I've really... I mean, I've pulled a lot of punches. And a lot of the times they're fighting like single monsters or lots of low-level stuff. But they have fought Drow before. So they know... They should remember how tricky these guys can be. The purple's drying now. So the shoulder pads I'm going to do as well. Typically Dark Elves will be wearing mithril armor of some kind. Either a shirt or something. Now, right. Okay, I'm going to hit up that hair. Looks like there's a hair band in the back too. Let me get that buckle in the middle of the belt. These are little details that help the miniature pop under close scrutiny. Not that the players are going to be doing it, but sometimes the camera catches it and it's like, wow, look at that. Okay, so there we go there. This I figure is actually almost done. I'm not going to be too presumptuous and say that it is, but it's getting to a point where it's almost table ready. Looking for any kind of metal things that I can just highlight. You know, like a clasp or a buckle or something like that. No, I think I've got most of that. So I'm going to hit up that white hair. Oh, this guy keeps wanting to strangle her. And then I think what I'll do as well is I will maybe hit up the skin with another layer of aggro stone to give it a darker look rather than just a leather look. What was I doing now? Oh, the white. Apothecary white. Where are you, Apothecary white? Apothecary white is another contrast paint. It's a weird paint because it's not white. What happens is you put it on and it dries and creates kind of a gray. But then you can go back over. So I've learned this, that doing white means you do gray first and then you dry brush white or put a wash or something, right? But to make the white stand out, you need to have a darker color underneath. And that's sort of something I didn't really think of. It's almost like if you had white hair, you'd have darker roots, that kind of thing. But so I splash this on. It dries kind of gray, and then you can go back and dry brush on the white afterwards if you have another white. So this is a weird paint. So I'll do it before. And she's got short hair, so it's not going to be... So at first you're like, why are you doing this gray? It's turning it all gray. Well, when it dries, it leaves the I don't want to say gray. It leaves the gray in the cracks. And then you can come along with your dry brush and pick out the top layer So it's kind of hard to explain, but by having gray underneath, the white that's left sort of looks white. There we go. And while I've got this, I'm actually going to go ahead and do all of them, actually. May as well. So it's got more hair. And it's okay to put more of this stuff on, even though it looks like it's all going to be gray. It does dry and evaporate, and really what you're left with is just the gray in the cracks. Again, this is a contrast, so you still have to learn about spreading techniques, right? You can't just gloop it on. So I'm spreading this around, not leaving too much of the quote-unquote gray in any one spot, but just making sure I get a good coverage overall. Here, this is the only guy that's not wearing a cape. Okay. Nice. More short hair. Sorry for being quiet. I'm just concentrating. Another long-haired individual. I need to get to a point with my D&D games where I'm actually spending my time leading up to the session getting ahead of myself. The way that I create, though, sadly, when I design my sessions, is that I kind of evolve the story as it goes. I'm like a George Lucas in the sense that sometimes I don't have my whole thing mapped out. And so, you know, I come up with storylines and such to a point, and then I kind of like fill it in as I go, which is probably not the best way. I may have just spoiled a massive DM secret on how they prepare, but unless it's a pre-written module, sometimes I evolve the plot and stuff based on the direction the players go. So yeah, I need to get to a point though where I'm actually planning things out ahead a little bit more than I am now, so I'm not stressing myself out. So this guy's done hair-wise. Got a little bit on the face and stuff, but again, that's going to dry and you won't see it because it's black underneath. So this is the hair of all of them done. This girl's looking good. I'll let you have a look at her. So she's looking almost ready to go. Again, I haven't done any dry brushing or anything. I have to decide if I'm gonna. How far you go on these figures is up to you, really. But she's looking almost table ready. And I could dry brush to bring out some highlights and stuff. But again, that's just whether or not you want to sink a lot of time into a $6 or $7 miniature. I like the orange. The orange turned out great. I just got to decide what I'm going to put in the middle there. Well, it looks like the purple and everything worked out good for this. I really like that look, so I'm going to go for that. I have some body work to do on these guys and such, so I think I'm going to, I think I'm going to start moving quickly. Let's start by hitting up my dark purple that I just discovered that I really like. And get that going on some of the pants and such, or alternate clothing. I'm still going to stick with the leather on on the bulk of the bodies and such, but I do like this dark purple, so I'm going to start making use of it here. And again, I'm going to rotate my camera a bit here so you guys can see what I'm doing. So this guy's got a jacket on, so let's hit the jacket up with it. I like the way the contrast ink is flowing around the scales on this. I might go back over that with a silver, I'm not sure. We'll see. That one's a little sloppy. Let's go back over to this one here. What do we got going on? Some leathers. I'm going to hit the purple up with the cloak there instead of the red. Looks pretty good there. I think I'm going to do black boots on that guy. Just making sure I get all the purple I'm going to get. So purple, got some purple there. Got the purple on the boots. I don't think I'm going too much further on the purple there. And let's hit up that cloak with some dark purple as well. Okay. So that's good there. I don't want to go overdoing it with the purple. So that covers pretty much everybody with what I'm doing on the purple side of things. That bad boy scares me, just because of how dark it is. Even the black doesn't go that dark when it dries, so goodbye to the purple for now. Let's revisit my skeleton horde to get some of that body work done. Actually, you know what? Let's get these boots done. Let's do some black contrast on the boots. Black temporary contrast. That way everybody's got some black and purple on them in different variants, so the miniatures stay a little bit different. Okay, boots done on that one. Jacket. He's going to kill you and look good doing it. Hope the players like this encounter. I mean, it's just a straight up combat encounter, but the end of this combat counter will take them to a different part of the realm to meet up with my other players who are in the homeland of these Dark Elves. So it's going to bring all my players together. I have two groups that are doing the same quest, so they will meet up. And usually it's kind of cool because the players get to socialize with each other. It's a very cool session. We have 8 players in the session. Gets a little chaotic, but we don't do it that often, so. Okay. It's looking okay there. Boots, boots, boots. Let's get these guys' boots done. And like I said before, it's the colors that you're using really aren't going to be all that varied. So the idea is don't go nuts with different colors, because then it starts looking like a Picasso or something. You want to kind of stick to some basic color schemes so that, you know, even though the models might be different in little respects, they all kind of look alike. So for me so far, I've chosen purple, I've chosen black for the clothing side of things, and then I've got the skeleton horde. So ideally you're going to see a uniform color concept, but each individual figure will still look a little bit different based on where I've chose to apply those colors. Basically it's like superhero 101. When you look at superheroes, they all sort of have a standard color theme, like Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, you know, like they don't have like a ton of different colors. Now, if I had done these guys way in advance, what I would have done is use some of the terrain paint or texture paint, which is good for bases to create kind of like a rocky look to it. But I don't have the time for it to dry properly, and it won't look good unless it's dry. So in that situation, I will be just using my creativity with colors. And that looks like a knee guard. You can see right there, there's on his knee, there's a knee guard. So I'm going to paint that and probably go over it with silver or something, but it's not going to be part of his pants. It's a part of his boot. Another tip that I do is I use my fingers to stabilize my fingers. So for example, right now I'm resting my finger on my thumb. Oh, that's the back part of that there is not his pant either. So you'll see I put my pinky finger there to stabilize my... Okay, so now I'm going to hit up the skeleton horde. Or maybe I'll do the green. Yeah, let's do some Militarum green. Let's work from the pants up. So the whole goal of all this, you know, really not to lose sight of it, is just to help in that immersion. So miniatures are one part of it, and to give you some DM tools. A lot of the time you can have the scenery, the environment, little tricks you can do in creating these sets to make them memorable, but you always got to remember as a dungeon master to not forget that you need to actually still provide some descriptions. So when you're playing, you know, and you're describing things to your players, don't just rely on the miniatures on the table to fill all that in. You got to stimulate their imagination as well as their senses, their eyes and stuff. So apologize if this stream is boring you. Painting is not the most exciting thing to watch someone do. I don't know any good jokes to tell you either, so I'm really at a loss on how to make this more enjoyable besides just talking through some of my techniques and such. There we go. Got the pants going there. I think I'll do the sleeves and stuff up top as well. I don't know if I should go in with the chest. You know what? I'm going to go in with some Militarum green on the body on this one. The gauntlets I'm going to do metal, but I think for the body in this guy I'm going to go in with this and see how it looks. So that was actually pretty good. I think I'll do his front protector there. I don't know what to call it, a different color. But I like the way that green turned out. So I think I'm going to go that route for maybe another one. Get some pants going on this guy. It's going to be metal. Missed some purple there. Going over your figures is also a good, like when you're doing this, is a good chance to see where you've missed and such like that. This guy's going to need some touch up because I've gone over some spots that I shouldn't have, etc. But his pants are done, so that's the big one for this guy. Get some pants going on this figure. Like I said, Militarum green is just a really good color to use in D&D just because it's not bright green. Again, using primarily contrast. I mean, there's a bazillion different paint colors out there that you could use if you're not using contrast paints, but I'm just putting a dedicated focus on contrast these days. Call me lazy, call me creative, but yeah. So for this one, I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go work my way up to the upper body and go with the Militarum green as well. Okay, I think I'm going to use the skull. Get the rest of that there. Cape. Not cape, but... Okay, so let's get the skeleton horde going. Some of this leather stuff. Skeleton Horde. Let me get my chat going here. I don't know how to get my chat back in case anybody's chatting. That's okay. If you are chatting, sorry I'm not responding. I'll do silver on the top of these gauntlets, but I'm going to do brown underneath there. Definitely going to do silver on the shoulder pads there. Just give it a little bit of extra skeleton horde so it differentiates itself from her skin. That's looking good. Let's see what this one's going to have now. Let's get some skeleton horde down below there and see how that's going to play out. Again, it's kind of a cheap way to go about it, but like skeleton horde is cool because you can paint over it. So you can actually put it on the figure to pull out the detail and then go, oh, you know what? Maybe that needs to be a different color. And it's not so dark that you can't just go with a different color for it. So that's about it for skeleton horde on this one, I think. Let's go her. She's already got some skeleton horde. Let's see how this is going to play out with skeleton horde. I'm not sure. This is the guy that needs some fix up on this one. So, yeah. Well, he's got a side pouch here. Let's see what this looks like. And something that his sword is in. Oh, yeah, that's going to be the purple. And he's got a scabbard down below there. So let's just get ahead of it and put some of this skeleton horde. It'll probably go with a different, probably some Agrux Dunes or something, but yeah, this guy I kind of slopped on accidentally. I didn't really do a good job on this guy because he has a strap and everything there that I just totally painted over with purple. So this guy was a sloppy job. Lots of different straps and stuff, so let's see how I'm going to pull him back from the brink. Now, let's take a quick second to look at these bases before they get away from us here. You know what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to do some brown, some of that dark brown. Not snakebite leather, but what's that other brown that I had? Black, snakebite leather, not the dunes. What was it now? Agros dunes. Come on, Dwayne, you're losing your brain here. Not more. It's a contra. There we go. Kygor brown, or was it? Yeah, Cygor brown. It's a dark brown. I don't know how I'm going to get rid of that strip of brown on that base that I accidentally did there. Maybe I'll do this, make her different and do, yeah, I think I'm going to have to. I'm going to do this whole brown. The very dark brown. Again, it's like that purple but brown version of it. It's the one contrast paint that is just, if you slop it on and don't spread it, it's going to just cover everything. And I'm just going to keep going with it. Or maybe not. Yeah, you know what? I'll use Cygor brown to emphasize the brown base, but I think I'll use the Agrux dunes to color the rubble. So welcome Agrux Dune. Agrux Dune? Yeah, Agrux Dunes. Agrux Dunes is very transparent, so if you've made any mistakes or anything like that and you try and paint over with Agrux Dune, not going to happen. But it is a fun color to paint with. It gives it a little bit of a sandy color. I think I'm going to have to go down and actually just buy one of every contrast paint slowly so that I've got a good repertoire. Dipping into that Cygor brown gives it some shading there. See how I'm just slowly lifting it up on the edges there. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing that Agarok's Dunes. All the bases. May as well, I'm here right now. This year I need to buy a better webcam too. I've had that webcam for 7 years now. I think they've made some improvements, I hope. Because I don't want to keep using my camera, which is what I'm using right now to film this stream. I'd rather use my webcam on my laptop so I don't have to... Yeah, but having said that, I've always felt that my webcam, albeit was good, it didn't perform the way that I thought it should. And now that we're moving into an era of 4K, even though YouTube, I'm not uploading it 4K, but still, I'm thinking at some point I need to upgrade that. Plus I need another webcam, so maybe I'll use this one just for my face when I'm doing my session so people can see me, and then I'll use the other one for my tabletop. Psychologically, when I do the bases here, it really helps me. Because I really feel like I'm getting more progress done, and then therefore I start getting, not faster, but I start getting more focused, and when I see that I'm making progress, I'm like, I'm almost done. It's a psychological trick. Later, when I have more time, and I might texture these bases, maybe with some rock or something like that, but for today's session I think they'll be fine. Plan on using Drow a little bit more often, although my new campaign, Strixhaven, I won't be. Probably. We'll have to see. Maybe. So, now after that, let's head on over and do 3:15. Yeesh. I got about 15 more minutes. So, let's see what I can do in 15 minutes. Let's get some steel on that armor and the blades. And I can give it some non-oil. 15 minutes. I think she's good to go. I don't think I'm going to... I mean, for today's session, I'm probably going to revisit some of this. Let's get this guy going here. Okay, so that's about as far as we're going to go. I'm going to put some non-oil on for today's session, because if I had another hour, I probably would have been able to do a little bit better job. But here we go. So rogue number 1 without non-oil. Rogue number 2, I'll actually hold them up there. So not rogue, Drow number 1. This is not my happy one. Again, non-oil is going to come on. Okay. Not my best works. I might do a quick little dry brush on that one, and then this one here. Actually, I'm probably going to do all that later, because being the perfectionist that I am, I'm not going to be happy with just leaving it like that. So I'm going to put the non-oil on and let it dry, and then head out and finish up the paperwork on the session so that I can play, clear my paint table, and set up. I went a little crazy on the purple with this guy. I didn't really think about all the other colors that would come into play on him. So okay, so there's my Drow Assassins done in record time.